Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube. Welcome, welcome to another Metaltober episode. So, this one, of course, is focusing on, well, as with the title, cult metal bands. At this, of course, pretty much the last 3 or so was me mostly going with a lot more well-established kind of bands. You know, ones that were already kind of popular to begin with. This is where I really go and dive in to the more obscure bands I was definitely starting to get into at the time of 2009. Because this was the year that, with of course finding YouTube and everything and really kind of searching more, I was really going down a rabbit hole of definitely checking out a lot of really obscure bands. And some of these bands would put me on the path of checking the much more obscure metal bands and such. So with that, without further ado, let's definitely get in. One of the first bands I was actually starting to get, or was wanting to check out, even though they definitely pushed this sort of boundary of being more of just a classic metal band. However, over the years, they've just more, I think, developed more of a cult metal status, and no other band, when it comes to any classic metal band, ever really had the cult metal status. I mean, a classic metal band that, or a big classic cult metal band or so, you know, that just had that sort of feel. They're featured on this comp, but it's, of course, Manawar. I was starting to check out a bit, and it was mostly the Battle Hymns album, and fucking great album. Sadly, I don't really own any Manawar, but at the time I was checking some of their stuff out on YouTube, and definitely a solid band. Definitely at times very much of an acquired taste, but they definitely had a bit of a really interesting sound. Of course, you know, their image and everything being all barbaric and muscles and stuff, but the reason I got into them was mostly it was the music, really, and it wasn't really bad at all. Second up, of course, this is one, of course, thrash metal. I was definitely checking out quite a bit of thrash metal bands and such, and within here you're definitely going to see some thrash metal bands for sure. But this one is definitely one of my all-time favorite thrash metal bands, and when I discovered them, I couldn't stop listening to them. As, of course, was Dark Angel. Mostly with this sound, and, of course, Darkness Descends, which I will definitely talk about as well. You're just going to have to wait. Still, this is just a classic metal album and everything. Just real just a good stuff. But to be quite honest, Dark Angel, being as now kind of a more well-known thrash metal band, they definitely had a more of a cult status before I really started check them out in a way. It's that they were big, but they didn't get nearly as sadly as some of the more well-established bands, especially for the fact that they came out of L.A. Of course, Megadeth being out of L.A. or Metallica before they went and moved to San Francisco. Still, just a solid band. Just a great band, all in all. Then, of course, when it comes to another metal band I was definitely started to really check out was Running Wild. Now, of course, not a thrash band, definitely more later, even though their lyrical themes was more pirate-esque, they still had a bit of a power metal sound to them as well, but definitely some solid German metal. Branded and Exiled was definitely the album that I really was listening to a lot at the time, even though I heard a bit of stuff off of Gates of Purgatory, and that was great stuff, but this was the album that I listened to the most, actually, and this is just a solid metal album from start to finish. Nothing bad at all off of Branded and Exiled. Then, when it comes to any cult metal bands, no one was ever as cult as this one. Oz, Fire in the Brain. Thing was like Searchlights, Fortune. Both those two songs really, when I because if they just showed up on the YouTube feed, I was like checking out, I think, a few new wave of British heavy metal bands. I'll get to that one real soon here. But I was definitely checking all that stuff out, and when I saw the artwork for this one and the song title, I just had to click on it and check out a track, and my God, it definitely broke the doorway down for me for sure. Of course, I did a album of the week video on this one already, so that's why I don't have to really talk too much about this one. It's just, all you need to know is still, this is a classic heavy metal album. Now back to some thrash. British time. Of course, was Onslaught with The Force. I can't remember how. I think it's like just like Dark Angel. Like the reason I found out about some of these thrash metal bands on YouTube during that time of like 2008 to 2009. People were doing like these thrash metal collage kind of videos where it's either had the title of Best Thrash Metal Bands or stuff like that. And Onslaught was featured in one of those videos alongside Dark Angel, and it was just, I think it was mostly from this album here, and that whole art just, somehow the name and everything just real caught on to me, so I was just like, I have to kind of check out at least Onslaught, and I did, and this sound was fucking great. And this still is a solid thrash metal album. Definitely very similar to early Dark Angel here and there, more like maybe Slayer, Exodus, like Bonded by Blood, but this is definitely a great British thrash metal album. Sure, the lyrical things, but to be quite honest, I don't care much about lyrical content as much. Depending if it's really interesting, I'll talk about it and really focus on it. But here, you don't really need to know any much more. It's just, well, just like the artwork there. It's what you're gonna get with the lyrical content. So there really is. This is just a classic thrash metal album, and it just still is an album that I hold great dearly to my heart. So, great album. Last one here. Classic Canadian speed metal band. Of course, I talked about Anvil in the last one, so you know which one I'm going to be talking about here. Guessed it, Exciter. And this was this album right here that I was checking out a lot at the time. Heavy Metal Maniac. Just a classic album. There's not a bad song on this album. And again, sure, the lyrical content just like that one, but still, there's some great songs. However, a song like Iron Dogs is a great track. Very much almost has starts very Black Sabbath kind of feel. And then, of course, later on until the end, it breaks out and just all out very sort of typical speed and everything. It's a great fucking track, and the album is great. Nothing bad on this album. With that, this is a real cool sort of quick rundown of some cult metal bands I was definitely starting to get into at the time. So with that, the next video, of course, if I already hinted already, I don't need to hint on anymore. You probably should know what's going to come next after cult metal, you know. So until then, this is Heavy Thrasher Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.